You know when you have a glass and full of water that has a little water in it, and you keep pouring the water, keep pouring the water, keep pouring the water. Soon the water get full and it runs over, and it ran over with us. And it was time for us to say something.
Ain't nothing changed, nothing new here to see. This ain't nothing but some political maneuvering. America, welcome to the eulogy, eat it up. It's called political buffoonery.
Hey there, everybody, and welcome to This Week in DUMBmocracy, where we showcase the dumbest newsmakers of the week. Now, this is a story that didn't get a lot of national attention until late last week, and frankly, I had to educate myself about it as well by researching articles, looking at stories, firsthand materials as well. It's the disturbing, darker side of buffoonery that we're going to be dealing with today, and it concerns the idea of progressive criminal justice reform and how it's run amok in many of our cities. Today, we're going to be focusing on Oakland and the desperation that many feel in response to the Alameda County DA Pamela Price and her policies. But before we get into everything, please be sure to like, share, comment about what's going on here, subscribe to the channel. This is an interesting story because we're starting off with a letter from the NAACP in Oakland that's really a desperate cry for help. The letter, which was issued by Cynthia Adams and Bishop Bob Jackson from Oakland, discuss the out-of-control crime occurring under the watch of Alameda County DA Pamela Price. Let's go through the letter. Oakland residents are sick and tired of our intolerable public safety crisis that overwhelmingly impacts minority communities. Murders, shootings, violent armed robberies, home invasions, car break-ins, sideshows, and highway shootouts have become a pervasive fixture of life in Oakland. We call on all elected leaders to unite and declare a state of emergency and bring together massive resources to address our public safety crisis. Now, let's flash back to 2020 and the time after the national election. There was a very strong movement and a very strong sentiment for defunding the police. I'm sure that you guys remember it from the last election cycle. While Oakland and Alameda County did not necessarily defund the police, this sentiment, it can be argued, led to many early retirements of experienced police officers and many others just outright quitting, which then in turn led to a shortage of recruits and even the recruitment of some unqualified individuals to become police officers. Currently, Oakland has a short staff issue when it comes to their police force. It's not like the People's Republic of New York City, where they have tens of thousands, I think somewhere around 40,000 police officers for the 5 boroughs of New York. We're talking around 500 police officers in Oakland. It's not enough for what they're having to deal with, apparently. This is the part that's interesting to me about this letter, and it's something that's not really talked about, and I am so glad the NAACP in Oakland has mentioned this. African Americans are disproportionately hit the hardest by crime in East Oakland and other parts of the city, and the same can be said about crime in every major city within the United States. But residents from all parts of the city report that they do not feel safe. Women are targeted by young mobs and viciously beaten and robbed in downtown and uptown neighborhoods. Asians are assaulted in Chinatown. Street vendors are robbed in Fruitvale. News crews have their cameras stolen while they report on crime. PG&E workers are robbed and now require private security when they're out working. Everyone is in danger. So how exactly did we get here, Oakland? Where did this state of affairs come from? Well, let's see what the NAACP says. Failed leadership, including the movement to defund the police. Wow, they're saying the quiet part out loud. Our district attorney's unwillingness to charge and prosecute people who murder and commit life-threatening serious crimes, and the proliferation of anti-police rhetoric have created a heyday for Oakland criminals. If there are no consequences for committing crime in Oakland, crime will continue to soar. Yes, I am getting behind this message 100%, but I feel like we need to substantiate these claims. The defund the police movement and the sentiment there, I'm not a criminologist. I'm not an expert in policing and crime trends, I'll leave that to the experts out there. I'm sure you can find some. I know that Actual Justice Warrior on YouTube is a great resource for me to try to understand a lot of these issues. But I wanted to go to some more local accounts to see exactly what's going on here in Oakland and see if there are any lessons to be learned nationally about the buffoonery of progressive criminal justice reform. So, in doing my research for this video, I found that the ABC affiliate in the Oakland area had a lot of reporting about Pamela Price. Here's what I learned about her. Let me share that with you first. She was first elected DA for Alameda County in 2022 with 53% of the vote. Her platform was based upon this idea of progressive criminal justice reform. If I had to define some policies of it, it would be discussions about political inequality in the justice system, opposition to cash bail, alternatives to incarceration, sort of having those mental health teams on the streets, and not charging youth offenders as adults when it comes to serious crimes. Those are just some of the ideas that were out there during this campaign from Pamela Price. And in general, you find these ideas spreading across different cities as well. Think about the People's Republic of New York City with Alvin Bragg and the reforms he gave in charging crimes and how to charge the minimum crime possible that in that day one memo, or the idea in New York State about cashless bail and bail reform that they've been kind of walking back a little bit in recent years. That sort of policies is what Pamela Price was running on, and she wasn't the choice of the local elected officials in the area. In fact, Eric Swalwell, a perennial buffoon that I'm sure will be showcased on many future shows, endorsed her opponent, who was seen as more moderate on the handling of criminality in Oakland. That should tell you a lot. When you lose Eric Swalwell and you're running on progressive policies, you might be a little woohoo. So let's get into this video. And I kind of broke it down into different areas. I want to give examples of what kind of sentencing guidelines do they have and sweetheart deals that they're pleading down, what's going on with the staff of the DA and how they were treated there, and the overall sentiment of this, well, I'm going to call buffoon, because I think Pamela Price I have an inkling that she's going to be a real political buffoon masquerading as a public servant. Let's get to the report here from ADC 7 in Oakland.
Price is shaking things up. With each passing day, I'm receiving new information about plea deals that favor criminals and leave victims of violent crime feeling like they haven't received justice.
Now, that's one of the claims made in the letter from the NAACP in Oakland. Let's see if it bears out.
The court records tell the story. April 29th, 2018, a Sunday, 2 in the afternoon. Unlicensed driver Cesar Garcia speeds 70 miles an hour northbound 880 in a red sedan like this one, makes an unsafe lane change, sideswiping a car, sending it into the sound wall. Several people suffer serious injuries in the crash, including a pregnant woman who lost her 8-month-old fetus as a...
Oh, man. I am so sorry for this woman. Wow. I mean, don't get me started on, the charging of the death of a fetus when it comes to criminal charges, whether she be charged as a person whose life is lost and all that. That's a whole other can of worms, but my goodness.
Result. Garcia ditches the car in this parking lot and tries to report it stolen. Former Alameda County District Attorney Nancy O'Malley charged Garcia with felony leaving the scene of an accident and felony reckless driving with serious injury. But this month, new DA Pamela Price offered a deal. Garcia pled no contest to vandalism.
Are you kidding me? Injuries to passengers, the vehicle was pushed off the road, woman lost her baby, and it's vandalism? That's ridiculous.
And got released with time served, just 1 year in
Time
county jail.
served!
Price's handling of that hit-and-run case gets worse. I've learned through multiple sources the Price's office did not inform the woman who lost her baby about the plea deal or the reduced sentence until after it was done. The victim is devastated.
Oh my God. I think that's a violation of the law, but put that aside for a moment. This woman was victimized a second time by the system. That's unimaginable.
Sources inside the DA's office tell me it's actually state law that a victim be informed about a coming plea bargain
There it
and
is.
have a chance to speak at sentencing. Neither of those happened in the deadly hit-and-run case that turned into a simple vandalism.
Wow, that's
We will
crazy.
be prosecutors who will use our power to change lives and not destroy.
So you already hear it. It took one sentence. About transforming lives of people who go through the justice system, not about the rights of victims. And wow, okay.
She released this memo March 8th, instructing prosecutors to stop using sentencing enhancements, which bring higher prison terms. That is already impacting high-profile cases. David Mish is in prison for murder, but Price is throwing out special circumstances in a case with 3 new victims, including 9-year-old Michaela Garrett in Hayward from 1988.
Means that there is no additional punishment for the fact that he's a serial killer, by definition, and that he committed those murders at least motivated in one or more of them by sexual assault.
The parents of toddler Jasper
Oh my
Wu,
goodness.
killed by a stray bullet during a rolling gun battle on 880, are concerned Price will throw out gang enhancements in their case.
And to just do it as a knee-jerk reaction without proper information is, I think, really sad for the family, and I think can result in injustice and can result in more people getting hurt, more gun battles down the freeway, right?
And just last Thursday, a judge rejected Price's plea deal for Delonzo Logwood. He's accused of 3 murders and faces 75 years to life in prison if convicted. Price offered 15 years on a single voluntary manslaughter charge.
Wow.
What that tells the community is that 3 young black men were murdered, and each of their lives is worth 5 years each.
That's exactly right. It sends the wrong message to the law-abiding citizens of Oakland, saying that your lives mean nothing. You mean absolutely nothing. I'm going to impose my vision of justice, and you are going to be victimized a second time, a third time, who knows how many times, by the system, by future crime. It's the complete demoralization of society.
My vision is to serve Alameda County as a minister of justice.
After her oath of office in January, one of her first directives to all attorneys and staff, they must address her as Madam D.A. Price.
The hubris, the arrogance, the audacity. This is a woman who wanted the title and wanted the power and didn't necessarily want to serve her community. Her idea of service is completely twisted. It's frankly disgusting.
Veteran prosecutors are not getting a free pass under Pamela Price.
Talk to the people!
Need I say more? I mean, this is someone who sees themselves more of an activist than they do as a public servant. It's absolutely crazy. But I just want to set up this part of the clip a little bit, because this is going to go into the inner workings of the Alameda County DA's office, how Pamela Price sees the people working at the DA's office and their reaction to that as a result. It boggles the mind. This is akin to what Kim Gardner did in St. Louis. As you'll see, she drives good prosecutors out of service.
She made her intentions clear in this speech 2 months ago to an anti-police terror project rally posted to the group's Instagram.
Yes, it's a new day. Them other folks is gone, most of them. I'm working on the rest, okay?
I find it really hard to believe that every prosecutor in that office is no good.
Right. That's what it feels like she believes, that we're criminals, that we're racists, that she does not support who we are as humans and the career choices we have made and dedicated our lives to.
10-year veteran prosecutor Charlie Weisenbach resigned from the Alameda County DA's office effective March 17th because, quote, I no longer feel capable of fulfilling my legal and ethical duties as a prosecutor under this administration.
Victims of crime still do have some rights, and those are being ignored and flagrantly disregarded. And it's really sad and hard to watch, and I didn't want to be a part of that.
The I-Team has confirmed Pamela Price has placed 7 attorneys on leave, fired 1, 10 have resigned, 4 retired, all because of Price, says a source. That's 22 experienced prosecutors gone out of an office with 135 attorneys.
Are you having an exit interview?
No.
Of course not, because Pamela Price doesn't care why these people are leaving. She just wants them gone, as you heard from that speech she was giving from on top of whatever she was standing on there out in the street at that rally. She wants these people gone, out of the office. They don't share her vision, therefore they gotta go. Like what you see so far? Go ahead and smash that thumbs up button. Also, leave us a comment and tell us what you're thinking. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another show.
If you had a chance to tell Pamela Price something, what would you tell her?
I think that I would implore her to see beyond herself, implore her to learn about what we do and why we do it. Because if you're going to head an office where you have ethical and legal duties to uphold, then you need to know what those are, and then you need to abide by them.
So now this gets into a story about another former prosecutor who Pamela Price actually charged because he was seeing prosecutorial misconduct in her office and tried to stop it.
Ford received the Alameda County Prosecutor of the Year award just a few years ago and led the felony trial team. But after just 2 weeks in office, District Attorney Pamela Price placed Ford on administrative leave, and he went public.
Pam Price has lost the mission of the DA's office, which is to speak on behalf of victims and for the people who don't have a voice.
Ford criticized Price for her charging decisions in the death of Jasper Wu during a freeway shooting. And now Price has filed a misdemeanor charge against Ford, defending after public prosecution as the prosecutor. The case stems from the police shooting at the San Leandro Walmart in April 2020.
Oh, of course, if it's a police shooting, obviously, with this woman being the prosecutor, she's going to throw the book at the police, right?
Hey, I got a shoplifter subject. He's in a store right now, and he's trying to leave the store.
Workers accused Stephen Taylor of trying to shoplift, and he refused to put down a baseball bat when police arrived. Officer Jason Fletcher tased Taylor twice and then shot and killed him. Whoa. After then District Attorney Nancy O'Malley filed a manslaughter charge against the officer, Judge Don Clay allowed the case to move forward, but added, "I don't, under any circumstances, do I see 12 people saying the evidence here is going to be sufficient to support a guilty verdict. I just don't see it."
Now, those words from a judge obviously hold a lot of weight. I've been before many judges in civil matters, and when you hear a judge say something like that about your case, like, counsel, you got a weak case here, or you have some problems with your case, or something like that, you take those words to heart. Now, in a criminal setting, that doesn't mean you get rid of the case. The judge allows the case to continue, but he's warning the prosecutor, I think you have a weak case here. You may want to plead it out. That should send a strong signal to the prosecutor's office about what's going on here. Now, the officers also, on the flip side, should have their day in court, right? If the case is that weak and the judge is saying to them, I don't see a strong case against you, I would think that officer who's charged with the crime would want to have their day in court to see if he can get acquitted, right? The justice system should be working in such a way to allow for the meting out of equal justice here. But I'm sure that's not what's happening in this DA office.
Butch Ford was in charge of assigning a prosecutor to the case, but in this declaration he provided for the defense, Ford describes his conversation.
Listen to that again. This is a prosecutor, a very good prosecutor, according to this news story, who swore out an affidavit for the defendant. That's almost unheard of.
In January with Quazan Malouf, a 22-year veteran of the San Francisco Public Defender's Office, who Pamela Price brought in as her assistant district attorney.
And there's another thing that falls into place. Pamela Price is looking to remake the DA's office by bringing in former public defenders to be prosecutors. Now, listen, attorneys are attorneys. If they're good, they're good. But clearly, this Prosecutor Malouf is more in line with the values that Pamela Price has, rather than the values that the DA's office has traditionally held.
Ford wrote, "Mr. Malouf told me, I don't give a damn what Judge Don Clay said. I
Wow.
came here to charge cops. They better be ready. They better Google me." Ford wrote in another meeting, I had explained to Mr. Maloof that Officer Fletcher had the same right of self-defense that any charged defendant would have. Maloof answered, if it were up to me, I would charge him with murder. And that declaration is why Pamela Price filed the misdemeanor charge against Butch Ford. He texted me this afternoon, like everything else she's done since January, this will backfire too. I've done nothing wrong, and her clear abuse of authority doesn't change that.
Absolutely unreal. Absolutely unreal. Folks, the buffoonery of progressive criminal justice reform is that it prioritizes offenders over victims. And all that does is victimize victims a second time. And like I said earlier, this is part of the demoralization of society. What happens is a community that's beleaguered by crime sees a prosecutor come in and goes easy on crime. Sweetheart deals for offenders, not charging youthful offenders as adults, even though they are old enough to understand the nature of the crimes that they committed. This leads to greater victimization, but it also leads to the most vulnerable people in society becoming more exposed and becoming more of a target for future crime. And it's all because of hubris and narcissism. The same narcissism I talk about in my book, which I'm going to pull out right now, Schnooks, Crooks, Liars, and Scoundrels, a field guide to identifying political buffoons, available right now on Amazon, at Barnes & Noble, and other online bookstores. It's that same hubris to fail to recognize that just because you have different visions doesn't mean that those living outside of society are going to simply bend to your will simply because you talk to them differently or you meet them at a different level of rehabilitation rather than retribution. Society has been going this way for many, many years before you came into office, Pamela Price. And a lot of what was already instituted had been working pretty well. Given the letter from the NAACP talking about crime having its heyday, and the charges made in that letter about sweetheart deals, destroying the morale of prosecutors and other elected officials, I'm sure the police as well, it all adds up to a community that is desperate for safety, so much so that you have the NAACP adopting talking points of the right, talking about the culture of defund the police has to go, talking about how the era of progressive criminal justice reform is a failed experiment, and Pamela Price, hopefully, will end up on the same trash heap as Chesa Bowden in San Francisco and end up getting recalled. I know that there's an effort to recall her right now. We'll see if it picks up steam. But it's this hubris and narcissism that leads to the most marginalized people in society, the elderly, single mothers, single women, children, all these people becoming more exposed to crime and becoming more desperate for protection. So that'll do it for this episode. Let me know what you think in the comments, and please, if you stayed this long for the video, subscribe to the channel, like, comment, share the show with your friends, so we can continue having more conversations like this, discussing all the shenanigans and buffoonery that's going on this week in DUMBmocracy.
All views and opinions expressed here are not necessarily of the mainstream media and may offend some listeners. It's called political buffoonery.